Alright, that's the new line, and you can see how much I was off. At the same time, once you're done that, go ahead and push your tube. Make sure it's flat or even with the top of the ties. I've already removed the tube and made a mark on the tube, but you want to cut the tube so that only 1/8 of an inch protrudes from the bottom of your layout. So I'll go ahead and cut that with my Dremel and a cutoff wheel. Alright, I've cut the tube. You want to make sure that there are no filings in the hole of the tube. So just go ahead and put your X-Acto in there and just clean it out. Make sure you have a nice clean hole. And at the same time, I also round off a little bit the edges so that it will go smoothly into the torque bar once I have the assembly made. Also make sure that your rod goes in with no problems. Alright, the tube's in place, sitting below the ties, and only 1/8 of an inch is sticking out from the bottom of the layout. Before I install the tube, I clean it out with some denatured alcohol, and then I'll put a drop of CA around the tube and below the ties, not in the hole. Put CA around the tube so that once it's in there, it's not going to move. The next step is to get the music wire that will be the actual throw rod and put a 1/16 of an inch bend on the tip, and then followed by another 90-degree bend to create a U on the wire itself. All right, that's the 1/16 of an inch bend at the end. Then you would lay it in the center hole of your throw rod and mark where the tube would intersect with the music wire. Make a small mark there, and that'll be your guide for your next 90-degree bend. I just use a regular set of needle nose pliers to put the bend in the wire, and when you're done you should have something that looks like this. And then to take the wire and drop it through the tube, and it should line up with the hole in the throw bar, just like that. As a matter of fact, you can even grab the wire from below and spin it, and you should get a no slop free movement with no binding whatsoever. Now I use some toothpicks and just place them on either side of the points and squeeze them down to lock your throw bar in the center. Then put a piece of tape over the toothpicks to secure them in place. I will also use another piece of tape right over the throw bar and press down on it to make sure that that music wire will not pop up once I do some pressure from below, which is the next step to put a 90-degree bend on the rod itself, aligned with the line that you drew. Now remember, I have two lines there because one was a mistake. I'm going to go with the second angle, the longer line. Okay, basically what you want to see your throw bar in the center. And you want that wire coming underneath the layout to be in line with the line that you drew, and that will guarantee that the throw bar on top will be centered, and it will be centered in the bottom once you mount the actuator. I use my Dremel with a cutoff wheel to cut the rod down to the required size. Now the next thing you do, you'll get the actuating rod itself, which has a hole and a slot, and that goes over the tube in the wire, like so. Then to see it work, just flip it back and forth, and you'll see the switch points move to either side. The remote actuating bracket is in place with the arm. Move it back and forth. Everything works nice, slop free, and there's no binding. Now you'll also have to get the I guess what would be called the actuating push rod, which is what goes connected from your Tortoise mechanism to the actuator itself, and put a 90-degree bend in that. This is the much thinner wire which goes inside of the Teflon tube, which I have here. You'll put a 90-degree bend at the end of the wire, and then thread the wire through the hole. And once it's through, you'll put another 90-degree bend to create a Z-bend to lock the wire in place. And there you have the wire going through the actuator and the Z-bend at the end, as I described. Now you can mount the assembly back into place underneath the music wire. In the kit you'll find several of these tabbed pieces. There are 3 of them. One of them has real thin grooves, and that one is meant to capture the wire. The other 2 have 2 thicker grooves, and that one is meant to capture the outside sleeve or the Teflon tubing, and that will hold the tubing in place on your actuator. It gets keyed in to this position right here. Now what I'll do next is I'll slide the Teflon tubing over the steel wire and bolt it down and crimp the Teflon tubing to hold it in place.